Okay, welcome everybody. This is Laura Osterhout. I'm the Executive Director of the Rochester Regional Library Council, and I'm here today with Alan Stelgis. Alan, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
All right,
And
right
I'm
on.
the Program Team Director at Causewave. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, we're really happy to be chatting today. RRLC and Causewave have been working together for many years to offer these grants to libraries to increase their capacity in various ways. And Alan is going to run us through some of the eligible activities that can be funded this year. And then we will take a look at the new updated application at the end and talk about the new process that we're going through. So take it away, Alan.
Okay, thanks, Laura. So I first wanted to tell you a little bit about Causewave, Causewave Community Partners. We're a nonprofit organization, and we support other nonprofits like libraries, and helping to get ideas and missions growing and increasing your impact in the community. So we have a staff of 11 people. We work with about 70 businesses per year. We have a lot of volunteers that work with us, and some of you who have worked with us before may have had a volunteer involved in your project, and probably about 200 nonprofits a year. So that's Causewave. Anything else that you want me to say about Causewave, Laura?
No, I think that's good. I think a lot of our members are fairly, excuse me, familiar with Causewave. And then, of course, anyone that applies for the grant will have an opportunity to chat further with Causewave and learn more about them at that point.
Okay, great. I'll move on then. So, involved in this project, we're really excited to be working with you all again this year. Over 40 libraries, library systems, and library councils. Is there anything that you wanted to add about that, Laura?
I think, yeah, Causewave has had a wide reach in this area, certainly with many of our members, but also, as you mentioned, with other library systems and the library councils. It was some years ago, maybe 5 or more, that Causewave came out to Albany to work with all of the library councils on our own branding as the Empire State Library Network, and what our brand is and what our values and things. And we found it really helpful. So I'm always singing Causewave's praises around the state.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. We love working with the libraries, and they play such an important part in communities, and so we really enjoy working with you all. So let's see. So what we'd like to do is take you through the process of applying for a grant to work with Causewave, and some of the things that you can address in working with us is creating or enhancing your marketing and communications plan to help you reach the people that you want to reach, through the channels that are effective for you. Identifying your library's brand. Surveying your community members for feedback. That's a new opportunity this year that we'll talk a little bit more about in a couple minutes. Making improvements to the experiences of people that you interact with. And that's one of the ways to do that is what's called a touch point process. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Developing values to serve as a guide. This is another new opportunity this year, and it can serve as a great foundation for your work, and sometimes can serve some of the same purpose that a brand can with a little bit in a shorter time frame. Developing a board or friends training or engagement plan. And then the mystery shopper program is still an option. So those are the choices for this year, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. The first option is a marketing plan, and so this process can be helped, or can be used to help you with a wide range of issues, whether it's improving your presence on social media, figuring out ways to attract new audiences, new members, perhaps that you're looking to increase participation in your programs. Maybe you have an event that you would like some help planning. So there's really a wide range of things that a marketing plan can help you with. And we'll take you through a process that will analyze what your goals are for the plan, who your target audiences are, what are the key messages that you want to that you want to get across to the people you connect with, what calls to action, what is it that you want them to do, and then some more specific strategies and tactical steps. So we're looking to focus in a little bit this year with the marketing plans, and plan to do that from the beginning to help you focus on what's the one most important goal that you have, whether it's increasing participation in programs, or whether it's starting to build support for a new library. And those are things that we have worked on in the past. Okay. So I'll move on to the next one. The next choice is brand development, and this is something that we've done with several libraries. And brand development is a process that we take you through that can really help you with a number of things. The possibilities are actually endless once you develop your brand, which is really your brand is really just a statement of who you are. And so it can help you with things like recruiting volunteers and staff, board members or friends members. It can help you with community engagement. It can help align everybody, kind of get on the same page about who we are. And it can really serve as a foundation for everything, including decision making. So a lot of times when people think of brand, the first thing that they think of is your logo or your visual identity. But this process is designed to show you how much more brand really can be, and how helpful it can be for you to sort of articulate who you are and be clear about that, so that people can learn to trust when they have contact with you, whether it's through reserving a book online, or whether it's coming into the library or attending a program, that they're going to have a consistent experience because you're providing consistent experiences or consistent expressions about who you are. So, and it's a really fun process too. Okay, so I'll move on to the next choice, and that's touchpoint analysis. And touchpoint analysis is a way, once you have your brand defined, or in some cases, maybe instead of a brand, you might have a values statement that you've developed. The touchpoint analysis is a way to make sure that you're taking advantage of every chance that you have to express your brand or express your values. So it's a process that will take you through, and it's just to give you kind of a definition of what we mean by touch points. It's really all of the interactions that you have with your constituents. So it's it's communication, it's human, physical interaction, and the process allows you to figure out, okay, what are all the touch points for our library? Usually there are about 60 or so touch points, and then figuring out what the priority touch points are, and going through a process to define or sort of analyze how are we doing with this touch point in terms of expressing our brand. For example, if one of our brand words is inclusive, one of the things that we might do with a touch point analysis is, have a group look at what it's like to walk into the library. When you first come in, do you see things on the walls? Do you see books that that are inclusive? Is the library accessible, perhaps, for people with mobility challenges? So that's the touch point analysis can be really, really helpful. It's something that we would like, in order to go through a touch point analysis, we'd like you to have either been through the brand process or the values process, so that you have something as kind of a barometer to measure experiences against. Okay.
I had a question about this one.
Certainly. Okay.
Does the touch point analysis help people identify touch points that aren't being effective, or ones that maybe they can stop wasting time on? For example, say people are spending a lot of time trying to engage on some kind of social media or a certain avenue, and it's not being effective. Would this process help to identify that and maybe help them make a decision about whether or not to keep doing that?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. That's a great question, Laura. Yes, so one piece of the process is to prioritize the touch points and say, okay, how impactful is this touch point? And then also, how are we doing against, aligning ourselves with the brand? And if it is, it absolutely could lead to a decision that, okay, this is something that we need to discontinue or modify or increase or start. So thanks. All right. So our next option is what we call board development, or volunteer development and training. And so some of the things that we could address through this are, working with your board to be clear about expectations. What is it that you need from your board? Do you need more engagement in fundraising, if that's something that your library model allows you to do? Do you need your board to be involved more in your strategic planning? Sometimes what we might do is help you come up with a board work plan that has specific goals. So this kind of highlights the importance of your board as a partner, working with you. And when a board is is engaged and high functioning, they can really help you meet your goals. And so this is kind of a wide category, and this is one of those choices where I think it will be really helpful for us to have a conversation with you and figure out how is it that you want to make your board more impactful with your library, whether it's planning for the future or it's fundraising. So we would in an initial meeting we'd narrow that down. Okay.
I had a question about this as well. It
Sure.
says board/volunteer training, and a lot of this, the things that fall into this category would be board focused. Can you give an example of something where volunteers would come into play?
That's a good question. So, and I found that some boards use volunteers, or some libraries use volunteers more than others. So it would depend on, somebody, one example might be a library director might tell us, well, we have a lot of volunteers and we'd maybe like to increase their capacity to be ambassadors for the library when they're out in the community. So one thing we could do in that type of situation is do a training with the volunteers. We have a training that we call an elevator speech, which is kind of a fun training that equips people to, have a consistent message to provide out in the community, about the organization. So, but we would definitely help, narrow down in a conversation what's going to be most helpful.
Okay, great.
Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the mystery shopper program. Sounds very intriguing. I know some libraries have gone through this. And that's where we actually have mystery shoppers who will visit your library and provide us with a detailed report that talks about their experience and gives feedback about their experiences. We put that information together and, and look at some themes and then work with you on some recommendations for how to improve experiences. And this is a really cool way, I think, to really get some, firsthand information about what experiences are like for people when they come in to our library. It can help with just getting us aligned on priorities in terms of what's important for our community members. It can help us develop improvement plans. It just really depends. So this is a great way to just get firsthand feedback. So, and I know some of the libraries have gone through this. Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. Values development is a new choice this year that I'm really excited about. We have done this exercise with other libraries, kind of outside the Library Council region. As I said before, it's something that could serve as sort of a mini substitute for doing grants. And it can be really helpful in aligning everyone around, what are our values, basically kind of what's our philosophy, what do we believe in as a library. And it can really serve as kind of a guiding force. It can really bring a team together. There's nothing like, getting together as a group and talking about, why are we here, what's important to us. It can really help, build morale. It can help serve as a guide for decision making and kind of serve as a compass to drive customer experiences. So this is something that could lead you maybe in a future year, if you had your values developed, you might want to do a touch point analysis and look at the different touch points and how are we expressing our values. Another way that the values can be helpful is to provide some kind of a basis for, a new tagline, a new logo. We recently worked with a library that did this values development exercise, and it's something that we can do like in one morning in a couple hours of a meeting. And then they use that as a basis to work with a copywriter and logo designer to kind of tweak their brand identity. But even more than that, the values can help serve as a guide for us for how we behave as individuals and as part of, as the organization or the library. So it can be used as a guide in much the same way that brand can. It can be used as a guide for everything, for decision making, for I often use the example of the physical plant. What does the library look and feel like when people come in? It can also be used as a guide for how we do things. Like, for example, if one of our values is teamwork or collaboration, that's going to guide how we interact with each other internally, and how we work with people that come into the library or utilize the library. When you know that like partnership is something you value, you start to look at, okay, people that come into the library, I'm working as a partner with them. So the values exercise can really be something that helps everybody get aligned. And again, can really be a great morale builder. So this is something new this year that we're excited about.
Yeah, this sounds like a great activity for any library or member organization that hasn't done a lot of this kind of work before, or if you have, I don't know, new management in place or a lot of new staff members or even a lot of new board members. This sounds like, as you said, like a morale builder, but also something that can help people focus in and be the foundation of work moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm hoping that this is something that at least a couple of libraries will want to do this year. Mm-hmm. And it can be really helpful and fun, and bring everybody together. And it's also a kind of a lower cost option, and also in terms of the time commitment that's required from people, it's a little bit of a lower time commitment. So it's a great way to kind of dip your foot into the water for this kind of work.
Nice.
Hey, I think we have one more to talk about that's also a new option this year, and it's a stakeholder perception survey. And we added this survey option this year because we, based on our experiences with a couple of libraries that we worked with, and we had goals to work with those libraries, but before we could actually move on to what we were going to do with them, it really sounded like they needed to find out more about what their constituents, their community members, their board, their staff, what their perceptions were about certain issues. So we decided to offer this as an option this year. So it can really provide you with valuable feedback about how people perceive your library, but also about community needs. What is it that people are looking for? And I think libraries are doing a great job of really almost reinventing yourselves in terms to keep up with the changing needs of the community. And so a survey is a great way to really be in touch with some of those needs and questions. But you can use the information to make decisions about programming. So I know that a lot of libraries are looking to increase programming options, but what kinds of programs will people like? A great way to find out is to ask them. And how you allocate your resources, and also how you communicate with people. That's one of the questions that we can ask in a survey is, how do people usually find out about programs and events and opportunities at the library? So how do they find out about us? But then also, how would they prefer to find out? And so that's important information when you're wanting to increase numbers, for example, of people coming to programs. To actually know how people prefer to find out information is really helpful. So, so the way that this process goes is that we would meet with you and get input from you about, what's the information that you need from your constituents. Causewave creates the survey, and we'll design it around the issues that are important to you. We administer the survey, and then we provide you with a full report. And one of the cool things about the surveys is that we can actually filter responses from people. And so what that means is we can ask people, for example, what's your affiliation with the library? Are you somebody who attends programs? Are you, on the board? Are you a staff member? Are you perhaps maybe a community member that doesn't go to the library? And then we can break up those groups and filter their responses to other questions. So it might give you an idea, for example, if you want to know people that aren't currently coming to the library, what is it that's important to them? And so it might help you plan for future programming. Did you have any questions about that, Laura? Because this is a new option this year.
No, I'm excited to see this option. I think that RRLC actually did kind of a version of this with Causewave probably about 5 or so years ago, and we're actually planning to do it again because we are going into the creation of our 5-year plan. It's something that's required by the state. And so we are hoping to work with Causewave on this survey. And it sounds like it can be really tailored to not only specific segments of your user or non-user population, but also to specific activities.
Sure, yes, absolutely. I mean, in terms of, what activities the library wants to embark on,
Yeah, or
or
like,
like programming.
yeah, all of that. I'm thinking, just
Yeah.
selfishly for our purposes, the state kind of dictates to us the certain categorical activities that we should be doing. But I think there's the room
Mhm.
within this survey for, refinement and gathering info on whether these activities are
Mhm.
needed by our members, or what else is needed. So I'm just excited to see this. I think, um, depending on what level a library is at, this could be really helpful with programming, as you say, but also with other things like even trying to outreach to non-users.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of the recent examples, we worked with a library that was looking to increase attendance by, people of a certain age group. And so a survey was helpful in finding out like what's important to people in this target population. We also worked with a library who is looking in the future to have build a new library or move to a different building. And so they had heard different things in the community about people's perceptions in terms of, what's important about where you locate a library, for example. And so with the survey, we were really able to get some concrete information, for example, about, what was important to people and when they currently visited the library, how did they get there? Did they walk? Did they drive? Did they use public transportation? So it's really helpful. So the survey, I mean, I can't say enough about how helpful it can be to really just have concrete data and feedback from people to, to be able to help you chart your course.
Yep.
Okay. And I like the fact that we have a couple different ways to get feedback from people. We have this survey as an option, but then we still also have the mystery shopper option, which is a way to get some direct feedback about people's experiences with the library. Okay, so, moving on to talk a little bit about the process. We have something new this year in the process, and that we're asking that each library that's applying have a phone consultation with Causewave. And the reason that we want to do that is we want to have a conversation up front, in the beginning to really help you zero in on which one of the program offerings is really going to have the biggest impact for you. Given your current needs, which option will be most helpful to you. And, we thought that having a conversation where we have the ability to go back and forth and ask you a bunch of questions, that would be, most helpful in kind of focusing your application. So the application form, as usual, is available on the website for the Rochester Regional Library Council. We're asking that you schedule a phone consultation with Causewave by emailing info@causewave.org by March 1st. Applications are due on the March 20th. You don't have to wait to March 1st to schedule the phone consultation. We have time available, around mid to late February too, that we can talk with you. So if you'd like to get started early, that's great too.
Yep. And once we're done with this PowerPoint part, I can show the application and point out a couple of the changes that we've made this year. But the application will be due by March 20th, and it, basically by 11:59 p.m. it can come in. The application will be in a Word document, and people can download it, edit it, and then send it back to us with all their information.
Okay, and what would be really helpful is if you can give some thought and make some notes on the application about which offering you're thinking about applying for. So that will help us, direct our conversation when we do the phone consultation.
Yeah, I think the phone consultation is going to be hugely helpful to people. We've had over the past few years some libraries applying for particular activities that it turns out wasn't the best fit for the goal they were trying to achieve, or whatever they were trying to find out. And it's okay because Causewave's super flexible and being able to kind of roll with that, but it does delay the process. And we want everybody to get the most out of their time and the funds that are put towards this. So the phone consultation is required, and we won't be able to consider funding any projects that haven't gone through that consultation.
Okay, and we can be, fairly flexible. We've got some time set aside already, but we'll make sure that we get those consultations in. We just need you to reach out to us by March 1st to make sure we get you on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think our next slide is just questions.
Yeah. I had a couple questions before we switch over and look at the application. For people that have participated in this program in the past, they may notice that there are a couple activities that used to be part of this program that are not now. And I wondered if you wanted to just talk a little bit about those two and why those aren't included. That was the communications plan and then fundraising.
Okay, thanks. So in terms of communications plan, if there is still an option called marketing plan, so communications could fit under that. The two main categories that are not available this year are the fundraising planning and then also the strategic roundtable. And
right.
yeah, so the strategic roundtable, we really need both of them. We wanted to take a year to kind of step back and evaluate how those opportunities could be most helpful to libraries. We found that when people applied for the strategic roundtable, then we ended up talking with them, and it ended up really not being the thing that was going to help them the most. So a strategic roundtable can be useful if you have something like an event that you're trying to plan and you just need like an infusion of lots of ideas. We bring in volunteer, usually like marketing professionals, and so it can be a great idea factory for something new that you want to try. But for the people that we found that were applying for the strategic roundtable, it wasn't really what they needed. So we want to take a year to step back and look at that. And then the fundraising planning, we were finding also that we need to take a step back and look at it. I think we'll probably come back with that choice again. We just want to kind of tweak it a little bit and maybe figure out a way to focus it more so that it's something that we're going to be able to provide in the time that's available with most of the grants. So does that answer your question, Laura?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I misspoke about the communications plan. I think, the strategic roundtable is a really interesting concept, but as you say, it wasn't really a good fit for the libraries that had applied for it. So we'll be working with Causewave over the next year and kind of evaluating this process, and they'll be thinking about those two activities and potentially bringing them back. But we're still really excited about all the activities that are available and the two new ones. I think that'll be really great and fit a lot of people's needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the only other question that I had, and while you're answering this question, I think I might steal the screen share and show some other things. Can you just talk about sort of how long these activities might take, or I know the values development could be a very short activity and take place in like a day? What are some of the longer ones, and how much time should people be thinking they might be spending with these?
Okay, so good question. You're right. The values development is probably one of the shorter ones, and I mean that could all be accomplished probably in 1 month. It would be probably one maybe phone conversation to get organized
Mm.
around it, and then it's a couple hours of an exercise, and then we would probably do a follow-up meeting to talk about how to incorporate the values. So something that might take longer might be like the marketing plan, and I mean that could take I mean depending on scheduling, it could take several months.
Mm.
And that's one of the reasons why we're not doing the fundraising planning this year, is that some of that was starting to take a little bit too long, and we weren't able to accomplish what we needed to in the time frame. So, but I mean, and so I think in general, in the same thing with like board development, that would totally depend on what we decided to do with you. Most of the activities can be done, in a period of like 3 to 4 months.
Mm.
One thing about the stakeholder perception survey, that might take, that could go up to several months, because we want to have the survey out live for probably a good 3 to 4 weeks. So there's a little time before to get it started, a little time afterwards to do analysis, and then do a presentation. So you're really talking with any of these, anywhere from like a month to like 4 months, depending on scheduling.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and so we've talked about the new process, the required consultation. This webinar will be available on our website. The grant will be opening on February 5th. So all of this material will be available on our website. People can watch this webinar to get a better idea of what some of these activities are. And then I just wanted to run through the grant application quickly, just to show some of the new things that we have put in here. Now, can you see the Word document?
Yep.
Okay, great. I've tried to make it a little easier for people to fill this out, but we're putting more emphasis on having you think a little bit more about these activities, what your real goal is, and doing some of that work ahead of time before you even talk to Causewave. So really, we just want to stress the most important thing is to get that consultation in with Causewave. So first, people should be, doing their research, reading up on the activities, watching this webinar, and then taking a look at the application, reading through all the sections to make sure that you're really understanding the activity and that there is a real need for this activity. So we have a section about, the need for your project, think about the time frame, and then think about the project participants. So, it could be anyone from your library staff to your board, your community members, depending on what activity you're doing, you could be reaching out, with your perception survey, to the entire community. So really think about that. And also, your organization's capacity to do that work. Causewave will be there doing work with you, but there will be a lot of, work that you need to do on your end. So make sure that you're thinking that through and that you have the capacity to do that. We want everybody to have a really successful project. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the project funding. We really like to see, sorry, you could probably hear the train going by in the background, sorry about that. We really like to see the libraries and our members come into this process with some funding of their own. Because we always have more applications than we can fund. It really shows a commitment on the library's part when the library or the board, or whomever has allocated some funding to help fund this process. So in some cases, we are not able to fund projects unless there is some in-kind funding available, just because, like I said, of the number of grant applications that we get every year. So the more funding that your organization can come in with, the better chance, that your project can get funded. And also it helps others in our community, other libraries, so we can kind of spread the wealth a little bit. Let's see. So I added, just updated the criteria for selection, which you'll see in the grant application. Again, the required consultation with Causewave, and we will be double checking with Causewave that did happen. And there is a section, a part of this application where you will list when you had the consultation and who you spoke with. We always try to give preference to organizations that have not worked with Causewave in the past. Now, that's getting harder and harder because Causewave has worked with so many of our members, and that's awesome. But if there is a member out there that hasn't worked with Causewave, we'd really like to see that happen. So we do give preference that way. And then again, on the funding side, if you do have funds to put toward the project, that's immensely helpful. And then just be sure that you really are addressing, clearly the need that you have identified for this project, and then your organization's capacity to really do this work. So, Alan, I didn't know if you had any questions on the application after listening to me talk about it. I know you've seen it already, but.
No, it looks great, Laura.
Okay, great. All right. So I think we have covered everything we wanted to at this point. We will be updating this webpage. So when you all see this and see this webinar, everything will be updated. We'll put the info on here of when you need to contact Causewave for your consultation, the email address that you're going to contact. And then we'll put a link to this video, which will probably be up on our YouTube channel. So is there anything else we need to cover today, Ellen?
No, I just wanted to say we're really excited about working with the libraries again this year. And as I said before, the work that you do in the community is really important. So we feel privileged to have the opportunity to work with you. I look forward to our consultations and our work together.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Causewave has been such an amazing partner, and I know your organization has made a huge difference for the libraries that have worked with you. So thank you for that.